Crown jewels is the traditional English term for the elements in metalwork or jewellery of the royal regalia of a particular former or current monarchy state. They are often only used for the coronation of a monarch and a few other ceremonial occasions, though the monarch may also be often shown wearing them in portraits, as they symbolize the power and continuity of the monarchy, though additions to them may be made. Since medieval times, the existing items are typically passed down unchanged as they symbolize the continuity of the monarchy. Typical items in Europe include crowns, sceptres, orbs, swords, rings, all usually in gold and heavily decorated with jewels, in styles which go back to the Middle Ages and are normally very conservative to emphasize the continuity of the monarchy. Many crown jewels are kept in a museum setting except when in use, and can be seen by the public. The crown jewels of many former monarchies can also be seen in museums, and may still represent national cultural icons even for countries that are now republics, as for example in Hungary, where the Holy Crown of Hungary has been reincorporated in the coat of arms of Hungary. Several countries outside Europe have crown jewels that are either in traditional forms for the country, or a synthesis of European and local forms and styles. Africa. Acts are mostly incorporated as part of the regalia of the monarchs of the succeeding Ethiopian Empire. Burundi, when King Shamam and Queen Rita Ola married, the traditional emblem of the Mwami was the carienda drum. These holy drums were kept at special drum sanctuaries throughout the country and were brought out for special ceremonies only. One such place is in Gitega, location of the Ibwami Royal Court, Central African Republic. See Coronations in Africa. Emperor Bokassa, Central African Empire. The jewels were largely provided by the emperor's political allies in France as part of that country's infamous Franc-Afrique policy, much to the chagrin of many progressive elements both within and without the empire. Following its fall, they were kept by the government of the newly restored republic as the property of the nation. Egypt. Ancient Egypt. The treasures of the pharaohs can be seen in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo and in other museums throughout the world. Kingdom of Egypt. Most of the crown jewels of the Mehmet Ali dynasty are at the museum at Abdin Palace in Cairo, Ethiopia. The principal crowns worn by Ethiopian emperors and empresses regnant are unique in that they are made to be worn over a turban. They usually have the form of a cylinder of gold with a convex dome on the top with usually some form of cross on a pedestal. These gold cylinders, cubes, are composed of openwork, filigree medallions with images of saints in Rapusayan settings of precious stones. Fringes of pendilia in the form of small gold cones on short gold chains are also frequently used in the decoration of these crowns, both on the cylinders, cubes themselves, and on the pedestals supporting the cross on the top. Convex circular gold medallions, discs of openwork or filigree hanging from chains over the ears are frequently found on these crowns as well, much like the ornaments that formerly hung from the sides of the Byzantine imperial crowns and which hang from the sides and back of the Holy Crown of Hungary. Some crowns also appear to have a semicircular platform for additional ornaments attached to the lower front edge of the crown. Other parts of the Ethiopian regalia include a jeweled gold sword, a gold and ivory scepter, a large gold orb with cross, a diamond-studded ring, 2 gold filigreed lances of traditional Ethiopian form, and long scarlet robes heavily embroidered in gold. Each of these 7 ornaments was given to the emperor after one of his 7 anointing on his head, brow and shoulders with 7 differently scented holy oils, the last being the crown itself. These imperial robes consist of a number of tunics and cloaks of scarlet cloth, heavily embroidered in gold. and including an elbow-length cape with a deeply scalloped edge fringed in gold, and two large squares of scarlet cloth similarly heavily embroidered and fringed in gold attached to each shoulder. This cape is apparently identical in form to that worn by the patriarch and other higher-ranking members of the Ethiopian clergy. The empress consort also was crowned and given a ring at her husband's coronation, although formally this took place at a semi-public court ceremony 3 days after the emperor's coronation. Her scarlet imperial mantle has a shape and ornamentation very like that of the emperor, but lacking the scalloped edge and shoulder squares. The crowns of empresses consort took a variety of different forms. That of Empress Menon was modeled on the traditional form of a European sovereign's crown. Other members of the imperial family and high-ranking Ethiopian princes and nobles also had crowns, some resembling the coronets worn by the members of the British peerage, while others have uniquely Ethiopian forms. Traditionally, Ethiopian emperors were crowned at the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Aksum, the site of the chapel in which is kept what is believed to be the Ark of the Covenant, in order to validate the new emperor's legitimacy by reinforcing his claim to descent from Melechi, the son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, who is believed to have brought the Ark from Jerusalem to Aksum. Their imperial crowns were afterwards frequently donated to the church and are kept in the church's treasury, although other monarchs have given their crowns and other regalia to various other churches. The crown jewels used at the coronation of Emperor Haile Selassie are kept at the museum in the National Palace in Addis Ababa, Ghana and Cameroon Ashanti Confederacy. The symbol of the power and authority of the Asantehene sovereign ruler of the Ashanti is the sacred golden stool, the sceptre. It is used for the enthronement and symbolizes the very soul of the Ashanti as a people. It is kept alongside other royal artifacts at the Royal Palace in Kumasi, Madagascar. The crown of the Malagasy sovereign was made in France for Ran of Lonrai. It is a large crown made from a locally mined gold in c. 1890 and is very heavy. In its essential form it followed the pattern of crown associated with a sovereign in European heraldry and had 4 arches which intersected at the top of the crown, while the circlet was made of open work and set with precious stones, and from the circlet between the arches were triangular leaf-like ornaments, which also were set with precious stones. One of the 2 most distinctive features of the crown was a large fan-like ornament generally described as a representation of 7 spearheads of the traditional Malagasy warrior's spear joined together at the base, but in photographs and paintings it looks more like 7 large feathers. The second distinctive feature is the representation of a falcon at the very top of the crown in the position a cross would occupy on the top of an orb in the traditional crown of a Christian sovereign. The falcon is a traditional symbol of the Malagasy sovereign. The inside of the crown was filled with a large red velvet cap, red being the color traditionally associated with royalty in Malagasy tradition. This crown and many other royal artifacts were saved when the rover of Antananarivo burned on November 6, 1995, and are now kept in the Andafi Avaratra Palace Museum nearby. Many of the rescued items have only recently been put on display. There is a painting of Radama II standing next to the state crown, and another of Queen Ran of Lona III, the last monarch, wearing it. A recent picture of the massive gold state crown as it is today in the museum can be seen here. The smaller queen's crown, last worn by Ran of Lona III, was taken with her into exile, first to Irkut Union and then later to Algiers, where she eventually died in 1917. The Queen's crown can now be seen in the Musée de l'Arme Irkut in Paris, Nigeria. The Nigerian royal regalia is normally kept in the capital city of the respective state. See also List of Nigerian traditional states. A list of some of the kingdoms: Abeokuta, Adamawa, Benin, Borno, Edo, Fika, Gombe, Ibadan, Ijebu, Ile-Ife, Ilorin, Is-Selukus, Jos, Kano, Katsina, Lagos, Onitsha, Oshogbo, Oyo, Sokoto, Tiv, Warri, Zaria, Zamfara, South Africa, Zulu Kingdom, Tanzania, Zanzibar, Uganda. There are several kingdoms in Uganda. During the upheavals after gaining independence, the monarchies were abolished. Only in the 1990s were the various kings restored to the thrones. Although they do not wield any political powers anymore, they are still a symbol of unity and continuance to the people. The royal regalia normally consisted of the royal drums, and are kept at the various palaces in the capital cities of the Ugandan states. A list of some of the kingdoms: Ankole, Buganda, Bunyoro, Busoga, Toro, Asia, Brunei. The royal regalia of Brunei are kept in the Royal Regalia Building, which was completed in Bandar Seri Begawan in 1992. It also houses the royal chariot, the gold and silver ceremonial armory and the jewel-encrusted crowns. Cambodia. The jewel-encrusted royal crown was lost after the Cambodian coup d'etat of 1970 by Cambodian Prime Minister Lon Nol in 1970. It bore a similar appearance to the one worn by the King of Thailand. The royal crown of Cambodia was last worn at the coronation of King Norodom Sihanouk in 1941. China. The most important item for the assumption of the throne were the imperial seals, which gave the emperor the mandate of heaven authority. These are kept either in the Forbidden City of the National Palace Museum. Numerous crowns, robes, jewels and headwear were made especially for coronations and other official events for each individual emperor rather than being passed down. India. The Koh-i-Noor diamond, probably mined in India in antiquity, is now set in the crown of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. Aside from regalia of the British Raj, which exists primarily as a part of the crown jewels of the United Kingdom, there are also surviving examples of the regalia of previous and other rulers of India, including some archaeological finds from ancient times. These include extensive examples of regalia surviving from the various princely states of India and Pakistan. Iran. The imperial crown jewels of Iran include several elaborate crowns, 30 tiaras, numerous aigrettes, a dozen jewel-laden swords and shields, a vast number of precious unset gemstones and numerous plates and other diamond services cast in precious metals and encrusted with gems. One significant item is a gemstone globe, collected, stolen and looted by the Iranian monarchy. For many centuries the Iranian crown jewels were kept in the vaults of the imperial treasury. However, in the early 20th century, the first Pahlavi Shah transferred ownership of the crown jewels to the state as part of a massive restructuring of the country's financial system. Later in the 1950s, his son and successor, Muhammad Reza Pahlavi, decreed that the most spectacular of these items be put on public display at the Central Bank of Iran, Korea. There have been a number of crown jewels present in Korea since ancient times, spanning from the ancient Go-Joseon dynasty to the last Joseon dynasty. Most of the regalia of these kingdoms, however, have been lost at various points in time, due to the successive rise and fall of the Korean dynasties and the subsequent and frequent raiding of Korean royal tombs and palaces by both Korean and foreign armies. The surviving regalia derive mainly from the Silla, Baka and Joseon dynasties. The crowns of Silla are noted for their exquisite gold and jade workmanship, which resulted from the spread of goldsmithing technologies from Egypt and Mesopotamia to Korea via the Silk Road. The surviving Silla regalia consist of many golden crowns, girdles, belts, necklaces, a sword, a dagger, golden shoes, earrings, a and more than 35 rings and hairpins. However, the silly custom was that every king and queen had their own set of regalia. Hence the regalia for each monarch was buried with them in the tombs, warranting the creation of many different regalia depending on personal preferences, contemporary fashion and available goldsmithing technology. The Joseon dynasty regalia consist of formal jewel-encrusted wigs for the queen and everyday crowns encrusted with various precious gems. The Bakia regalia are similar to the Silla regalia, but are even more arabesque and consist of magnificent girdles. The Bakia crown jewels are also noted for the unique incorporation of colored gemstones from trading posts in modern-day China and Indochina. During the period of the Great Korean Empire under Emperor Gojong, the imperial family commissioned many brooches, Western-style diadems and tiaras to suit Western-style clothes. Japan. The imperial regalia of Japan consist of the holy sword Kusanagi, the holy jewel Yasukane no Magatama, and the holy mirror Yata no Kagami. The sword and the mirror kept at the Shinto shrines in Nagoya and Aizu in central Japan, and the jewel at the Tokyo Imperial Palace in Tokyo. The enthronement ceremony is traditionally held in Kyoto. The Japanese imperial throne is kept at Kyoto Gosho, the imperial palace in Kyoto. Laos. The regalia of Laos are kept in the Royal Palace Museum in Luang Prabang, Myanmar. The treasures of Burma-esque Bom dynasty are kept in the National Museum in Yangon. They include items such as the Siasana Palanka and various other items. Other items can be seen in the old capital city of Mandalay, Malaysia. The royal regalia of Malaysia are kept in the Istana Negara in Kuala Lumpur. The regalia is worn by the king and the queen during certain ceremonies, such as the election as head of state, the king's birthday, award ceremonies, and the calling of parliament. They consist of the Tengkolik Daraja, the Queen's Jendik Daraja, the Keris Panjang Daraja, the Krispendik Daraja, the Koganalam Dan Koganagama, the Kokma, the Padang Keris Panjang Dan Sundang, the Peung Abur Kuning Dam Tombak Barambu, and the Pending Daraja. Malaysia is a federal state, consisting of 13 states and 2 federal territories. Out of these, 9 are monarchies headed by sultans. Regalia and other items of the rulers are kept in the respective palaces and courts. These are Johor, Kedah, Kelantan, Negri Sembilan, Pahang, Perak, Perlis, Selangor, Terengganu, Sri Lanka. The crown, sceptre, sword and throne of the last king of Sri Lanka, King Sri Wikrama Rajasinghe of the Kingdom of Kandy, in the National Museum of Colombo, Sri Lanka, Thailand. The regalia, royal utensils, and the royal 8 weapons of sovereignty comprise a total of 28 items. The regalia consists of the Great Crown of Victory, the Sword of Victory, the Royal Staff, the Royal Fanor, and the Royal Slippers. The collection also includes the Golden Jubilee Diamond, currently the largest diamond in the world. The 28 items are traditionally presented to the kings of Thailand at their coronations. They are kept, amongst other royal items, at the Grand Palace in Bangkok, Vietnam. The signs of the imperial power of the Nguyen emperors were the Great Imperial Seal and the sword. When Batai, the last emperor of Vietnam, abdicated in August 1945 at Hue, he is recorded to have surrendered the royal insignia to the new communist authorities. What happened to them after this is not known, but presumably they took them away, perhaps to Hanoi. In 1949 the former emperor became head of state of the state of Vietnam, was not crowned, and was ousted by his prime minister Ngo Dinh Diem in a fraudulent 1955 referendum, and spent the rest of his life in exile. In 1968 the city of Hue was the scene of fierce fighting between the Communist People's Army of Vietnam and Viet Cong and U.S. Marines and the Army of the Republic of Vietnam. The imperial palace was bombed, ransacked and almost completely destroyed. It is possible that the imperial insignia, if they had not been removed and taken elsewhere in 1945, were lost or destroyed at this time.